GKFX Prime presents the Market Analysis Webinar.
Hello traders, welcome back to another video. You know what time it is. It's that time of the week. Another week of chart analysis here for you. Another week of high probability setups for you to get your hands on. Well, what have we got in the markets this week? My name is Dima. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to go through a few charts. It's a bit more tricky this week in terms of picking setups. I have to admit, I had to scour the markets and look a bit more carefully because we are getting some ranging movements and it's not as clear as usual. The markets are a little bit staggered at the moment, and well, let's see what we can find either way, and let's see what possible scenarios we can glean from where we are at the moment. And we'll run through which ones are higher probability, more so than others, and let's see what we can get this week. So if you fancy having a little go at doing it yourself and then seeing how it compares with what I'm seeing, then pause the video and then go and mark up your charts and come back and see where you're at with the charts I've got here for this week. So if you're not, then carry on with me here and let's get to see what we've got for this week. And as ever, I'm going to start with the economic calendar. Okay, let's begin with what we've got this week. Monday, we've got a speech by Janet Yellen, Fed Secretary, on the dollar there. And that's Monday. Tuesday, we've got a budget announcement from Australia. We've got consumer confidence news from dollar on the from the US. And then on Wednesday, we get to the real, more highly impactful events, Australian dollar CPI numbers, and then the big one from Canada, the Bank of Canada rate. On Thursday, another big one on the euro. We've got policy, finance rate, and a press conference. And we also have on the dollar the GDP figures. And on Friday, we've got monetary policy from Japan. That should be one to watch for. And then CAD again, GDP figures. Now, let's see whether any of this lines up with the charts that we've got. We do have a few that may look interesting. So we do have a CAD pair here. We do have gold, S&P, and 2 pound pairs. No pound news this week, but the dollar related news may line up with gold, S&P, and perhaps even oil, especially as we've got CAD news as well. So we know CAD and oil are loosely related. And we've got Bitcoin as well, an old favorite. Okay, let's begin with looking at where we are with the charts. I will begin with the biggest Forex pairs. So let's start with Euro Pound. Now, Euro Pound here last week, this is the scenario we were looking at, and we actually had this scenario play out the end of last week. And what happened? We closed with a wick to the high of the week, and that's what was coming out of this area right here that I marked, and we had this shift that's after it moved away. So now that it has moved away and it's done that, what would be the next point to look for? Well, we're kind of breaking the structure here. So now I'm going to look for the next pullback to the higher price, which would be here and in this gap. So move higher, better price, and then down to the next lows would be the most obvious trade scenario. And I marked out this low over here, and this low over here would be the next point if we're going lower. So that one is about 60 pips away, the next level, but the first target should be within reach. Now let's see if we get that reversal on this area and then go from there. With this swing being the important swing, this will be the area of invalidation. So if the market goes beyond this area, then beyond this price point, then of course this now becomes a higher low and we may be getting a higher high. So this whole idea to go lower is invalidated. Right. Yeah, looking at the weekly, still don't see a very clear reversal pattern, to be honest with you. Yeah, we want to see a much more bullish weekly candle to show more upside. Plus we had this very long wick, unusually long wick on euro a few weeks back, about 250 pips. So I do expect this downside to continue, at least in the short term. Okay, pound Swiss. So pound Swiss, we were expecting continued bullishness last week, and what happened was we just had a big ranging week. We didn't drop into this lower price, so we just ranged, and now we're continuing to be in that range. So let's see what happens from here. That's the interesting part, if we do actually get that price. Now I do favor this better price right here. Definitely would like a nice cheaper price before going higher. So let me just adjust that, go back to the weekly and adjust. Let me just adjust my levels. Right, so I don't need that. So marked out this higher high. Now we have this higher low, and a drop into this area will be a nice cheaper price. So I would still like to do that, still like the market to drop in and give a better price before heading higher into the next level, which would be up here. So that's from here to here, and that will be the idea, to be a nice 500 pips. If you like the shorter term target, that would be this swing right here, and that would be about 300 pips. Now there's also the possibility of the other scenario, and the other scenario is, as well as this one, is that we move higher, go down a time frame, we move higher, break this high right here, create a new higher high, and then a pullback from there would be the nice place to go long from, and then a continuation from there. What we do see here is we have created a gap. Now we would like to see fill of that gap. Now the question is whether we do have any reaction there, or we're going to continue to the downside. So I'll see for one of these two scenarios to play out. This is the upside scenario, and then again this is also the upside scenario, but the better price and favored. But we'll see whether the market actually produces that this week or not. We may get even more ranging market behavior, so we'll see. We'll have to just be patient and observe for now. Okay, next on the currencies list is Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD, right, on the weekly, we have had, actually let's look at the monthly, a little bit easier. We've had this massive move here, and then we retraced. We are now sitting in this very deep retracement area, so a short would be lower probability. However, there is no price action reversal at the moment that I see here. This does look, it's not quite a harami candle, neither is it a reversal or a star pattern, so still gonna continue with the downside from there. Now there is a question mark here of whether we are going to get that downside. The market may shoot higher. We're going to have to always assume that possibility. So the possibility, if it goes higher, would be interesting from this level, because this is the last swing high. So if we break that level, then I would look for possibility to go long into the next area, next structural point. However, because I still see bearishness, what I would anticipate as a possibility is the market to come down lower. That's also another possibility, into this level, afterwards retracing into this level, I should say. Something like this. And then the probability would be to come to the downside for a quick short-term move, because we are a very deep retracement on the larger time frame. So do bear in mind the bigger time frame in your trading. In this case, because the bigger time frame, the higher time frame, is showing the fact that we are in a retracement, and then we've begun this, obviously we began this ranging movement. So I would not expect many pips out of this one. Let's see which way it actually moves, and the news this week will most likely give that answer when the even more volatility kicks in. So one to watch at the moment, and let's see it play out before making a choice, making a decision there. Okay, next let's go to S&P. All right, so S&P on the weekly, we've been looking at the downside for a very long time here. And now we are getting this sort of slowdown. Previous week has been bullish. And if we are going to continue the downside, which is the obvious higher time frame idea, then the question now becomes, where are we going to look for that? Well, if I take the previous swing, which is this high and this low, then a retracement into anywhere above the 50 level or 61.8, somewhere up here, would be interesting. Obviously, the more deeper the retracement, the better the price. So there's that zone. Now with that in mind, let's have a look at the 4 hour. If we're going to go into this level right here, this obvious swing point, now the question becomes, a retracement into there is possible, I would say a bit more likely now. And if that is more likely, because we haven't quite reached that deep retracement area where the market likes to reverse from, then I'm going to look for this trade against the trade. So this is going to be perhaps lower probability because it's against the trend, but at the same time we are looking at a high probability in terms of retracement. So this is possibly a short-term trade. I'm not going to look for this to run for very long. And where is that going to be? Well, you can probably see we've got this low right here, made a higher high, breaking this structure, created this low over here, made another higher high and another higher low, and now we're higher high again. So there's a sort of trend developing. It's indicating that we are moving to the upside. So where would the next possible idea be? Well, a nice better price into a zone and a retracement where we are currently. So here we are, somewhere here, nice better price, this retracement again on the fib, and then moving to this zone right here. The invalidation area would be this point clearly, because that is the previous swing. So if it goes lower, then I would not expect a move higher just yet. We may get more ranging market or down to the next obvious low in line with a higher time frame. So at this moment in time, it's not so clear. Let's see if we get a nice push higher once we reach round about this level. Okay, so that's the idea for S&P. I would say a nice decent probability on that one. Right, next let me have a look at oil. Oil is another one we've been looking for a while now, haven't we? And what's happened here? Well, we had this pop higher on oil, expecting last week a continuation of that, but we didn't quite have that, did we? We kind of came into this area and then had this mild price action, and then it came down again. So not really a very strong move away at the moment. Looking on the weekly, you could see we had this more or less neutral, almost doji bar last week. So last week was neutral. Now the question becomes, is it still a continuation to go long, or are we going to break down and go lower? These are the scenarios where the probability is reduced because we're now in the halfway point. We're neither here nor there. It's not showing clarity on either direction. What to do? What to do? Well, the question now becomes, how are we going to look at the market now? Well, there's two ways. If we're going to consider both possibilities, I'm going to look at this high as being significant. So if we break this high right here, then I would look for a very clear break and then pull back to get a better price and continuing to the upside to the next obvious area, which is up here. And if that's not the case and we have a breakdown below this level, then I'll be looking at break, pull back, and then a continuation to the downside. So as we reached this area right here, and we haven't had a very significant reaction, I'll be looking for more downside. And then we also have this gap right here, which expecting the market to also fill. Because of that, I favor the downside scenario. And the other issue here, as well as expecting the downside, is the fact that what happens when the market fills the gap? Now, if we fill the gap and continue to the upside and make a reversal, then this whole idea is no longer valid, because a push to the upside with significant momentum, with these sort of candles that you see right here, or these sort of candles right here, where the market makes a very significant move the way, then this sort of idea here will be invalid, it will break down, because we're now so to speak respecting this area, and this is the area of significance for the market to move away from. So bear that in mind. This is going to be a more tricky one until price action tells us otherwise, until it becomes clearer. So you can see here on the weekly, I don't know if we're going to come down and reach this next low and create a new lower low, or we're going to go higher and create new highs. Again, more patience required, a bit more time required on oil there. Now, gold. Let's go to gold and see what's going on here. Okay, with gold taking this low to these highs, we are in a long term, very, very long term retracement area, and now we're getting this range that you can see here. The market is beginning to range, beginning to slow down. So it becomes again unclear what is going to happen. Last week we closed bullish. So the idea here is to see whether we get a continuation of that bullishness. We just about broke this high right here, not quite this one, but it looks like we're breaking new highs. Now, if that's the case, then I'll be looking at a nice retracement deep into this area here to get a chance to go long. So it will be something like so. This would be the next obvious level to reach for, and then after that we're going into much longer term right here. So that'll be a nice risk to reward idea here. On the other hand, is considering the other possibility. So if we consider this possibility, then this low would be the low that should be held, and a breach below would invalidate this idea. Now, obviously, I'll be looking for strong price action to react off here to confirm that this is indeed the upside is the intended direction. Until that happens, I still will not look at this seriously. So the probability will need to stack up in this area, and it need to be obvious when the market shows its hand. As I was saying, the other possibility is that we break below here, and if we break below here, then this whole idea is now invalidated, and I would scrap that, and then I would wait to see for more price action to develop before actually taking this trade, before considering any long or short. We need to really break down for the short to be valid. Yeah, let's see how it goes. Right now I am seeing this whole thing, as I was saying, as a possible range, so not really taking this one too seriously in terms of probability. I'll have to wait and see on that one. This is another one, as I was saying, the markets are in a range. It's a bit of a tricky scenario, tricky week to look at the moment. Yeah, that's it. So we're gonna have to tread carefully this time out. Okay, finally, last but not least, Bitcoin scenario. Looking at last week, we are still ranging. Many weeks of a range. Market is really building up orders here. Still favoring the downside because I don't see any reversal to the upside. And what did we look at? Well, we looked at this area, which we still have not reached into. We're just ranging. Now the question becomes, are we going to even come into this level? This seems less likely right now, and I do not know whether that's going to be the case. We are stuck in a range. So again, as you can see, well, you don't want to be trading in this sort of market, because this choppiness is just going to really cause havoc for your mindset and your trading and your confidence. Where to go from here? That's the question. How would you approach it? Well, the real high probability is still going into this level before the drop down. And what if that doesn't happen? Well, you got to consider another scenario. Do favor the bearish bias, so I will stick to that and I will avoid the bullish scenario. So I'm going to still look at bearishness, considering as well as, if you just have a quick look here, we did just about, I think we just about squeezed this low, almost went lower. Now I'm going to look at the bearish possibility and what would that look like, because I'm favoring the downside even though we are in a range. So first of all, I see it as what looks like a trend line developing here, and I'm seeing this low here. Therefore, if there is a break of this low, I would take that as a confirmation to go lower. Now, a break of this low signify more downside momentum, and I would favoring the downside, so a pullback into somewhere around this area, and then a continuation to the downside to break this low and continue to the next level, which is what I was looking at some time ago. The 15k level is still something I'm paying attention to. Looking at the daily, you can see there was this structural area right here. This will be the next obvious target to look at. So yeah, that's that. That's if we break this level here. Now, if we go higher, then I will still look at this zone. Let me extend it as a place to pay attention to short from, if we continue this range and just continue to range, and then go higher and then into this level. If we don't and we get a breakdown, then I'll be switching to this idea right here, the break, the pullback, and then a continuation lower. yeah, as you can see, the markets are a little bit unclear, and it's more difficult to make a decision about it. So this is why I have to consider multiple scenarios. What if this happens, then I do that, or if that happens, then I do this, and not really get attached, not get married to any one particular idea. Remain fluid, remain flexible. So as always, as I mentioned at the end of every video, very important to manage your risk, and important to understand that if these go wrong, should they go the other way, your account is still fine and you're still going. So let's wait for the price action to show us more data, wait for the high probability scenarios, and then let's see what happens from there, and if any of these scenarios actually play out, and if it plays out clearly and the price action is there. It's just a kind of poker game, if you like, right? Thank you again for joining me this week. Hopefully this has been useful for you. Comment down below, subscribe, and let us know what you are seeing, and hopefully you're gonna get something interesting for this week, interesting setup. So thank you again for joining me. If you did do the exercise at the beginning and you tested yourself out with the charts and your own analysis, let me know how you did, what you saw or didn't see, whether there was something else that was available that perhaps I missed out on. I may miss out on some things too. Okay guys, thanks very much for joining me. See you next week as always. Okay, bye for now. Have a lovely trading week.